Hello students, this is conclusion of the essay Commonwealth literature does not exist. Salman Rushdie was born to a Kashmiri family in Bombay. He had experience of migration to and fro Bombay and Pakistan. He also was educated in England. These frequent displacements left an impact on him. Migration is a major theme in his writings. His childhood in Bombay registers his love for the city. Religious sensitivities in the contemporary world force him to propagate the assimilation of cultures throughout the globe. Bombay has instilled in him the tolerance for other religions, and he expects the same in the countries where he migrated. Rushdie describes the pathos of frontier crossing through migrancy in his novels. His education at Cambridge gave him a broader context of religion and cultures, but he has also encountered racial subjugation as an outsider. Further, his childhood in Bombay always witnessed a multicultural setting of various religions. Back from England, he immigrated to Pakistan, where his family had been displaced previously from Bombay owing to the partition politics. On stepping into the monoculture of Pakistan, he realized the broader religious dimensions of Bombay. The religious extremism in Pakistan kindled in him an aversion to religious ethics. The orthodoxy of Islamic culture made him deviate from it, and this ended up in the Satanic Verses, which has been banned for its inappropriate vision of Islam. The fatwa issued on him puts him in exile, severing him from his roots. Rushdie's migration to Britain for the second time got him the citizenship of Britain, and his next migration was to New York. Rushdie's novels include Grimace, which was published in 1975, followed by Midnight's Children, 1981, then Shame, 1983, Satanic Verses, 1988, Haron and the Sea of Stories, 1990, Mood's Last Sigh, 1995, The Ground Beneath Her Feet, 1999, Fury, 2001, Shalimar the Clown, 2005, The Enchantress of Florence, 2008, Luca and the Fire of Life, 2010, and 2 years, 8 months, and 28 nights, 2015. His non fiction books include The Jaguar Smile, A Nicaraguan Journey, published in 1987, Imaginary Homelands, Essays and Criticism, from 1981 to 1991, published in the year 1991, and Step Across This Line, collected non-fiction from 1992 to 2002, published in the year 2002. His short stories collection is East West, published in 1994. He has written a memoir, Joseph Anton, a memoir, 2012, depicting the pains of exile caused by the controversy over his banned novel. He is also the co editor of the Vintage Book of Indian Writing from 1947 to 1997. Migrancy and cultural displacements form the spirit of Rushdie's novels, and he portrays his displaced characters as decentered beings free from the cultural pull. To give a short summary of the essay, Commonwealth literature is used to cover the literary works from territories that were once part of the British Empire, but it usually excludes books from the United Kingdom unless these are produced by resident writers who originate from a former colony. The great irony, however, is that much of the best literature that has emerged from Britain in the last years has been produced by writers from or with roots in colonies. While attending a seminar at Cambridge University, Rushdie recalls that, I quote, many of the delegates I found were willing freely to admit that the term Commonwealth literature was a bad one. South Africa and Pakistan, for instance, are not members of the Commonwealth, but their authors apparently belong to its literature. On the other hand, England, which, as far as I am aware, has not been expelled from the Commonwealth quite yet, has been excluded from its literary manifestation. For obvious reasons, it would never do to include English literature, the great sacred thing itself, with this bunch of upstarts huddling together under this new and badly made umbrella. Here, Rushdie points out that English literature, due to its superiority, does not want to include itself with Commonwealth literature. According to Rushdie, one of the ideas on which the edifice rests is that literature is an expression of nationality. Literature is a general representation of cultural particularities, that is, literature varies from culture to culture, from one period to another. There is another element of literature that shocks the literary mind. A respectable literary piece, according to Rushdie, must meet the demands of authenticity. Authenticity demands that sources, forms, style, language, and symbol all derive from a supposedly homogeneous and unbroken tradition. The lexicon of Commonwealth literature, as it applies to the literary aspect of British colonialism, is an innovation. Literary critics often praise the achievements of Commonwealth literary figures, forgetting the most essential element of literature. Today, literary works are not mutually exclusive in the sense that they are simultaneously influenced by different cultures. For example, some Indian novels, in them both the form and style resemble that which Europeans used in the early 20th century. This is not done intentionally. Many of these writers are Western educated. As such, it is inevitable that their style would follow the Western model. Commonwealth literature is therefore an unreliable phase of historicity. It is neither founded on one form nor guided by an encompassing set of norms. Indeed, when one talks of Commonwealth literature, one needs to look beyond the borders of the nation state to the land of the West. In short, according to Rushdie, Commonwealth literature is an encompassing myth. In addition, he adds that, I quote, one of the points I want to make is that what I have said indicates, I hope, that Indian society and Indian literature have a complex and developing relationship with the English language. This kind of post colonial dialectic is propounded as one of the unifying factors in Commonwealth literature, but it clearly does not exist, or at least is far more peripheral to the problems of literatures in Canada, Australia, even South Africa. Every time you examine the general theories of Commonwealth literature, they come apart in your hands. English literature has its Indian branch. By this, I mean the literature of the English language. This literature is also Indian literature. There is no incompatibility here. If history creates complexities, let us not try to simplify them. So, English is an Indian literary language, and by now, thanks to writers like Tagore, Chaudhary, Mulk Raj Anand, Raja Rao, Anita Desai, and others, it is quite a pedigree. Rushdie says that Indian English literature is also part of British literature or English literature. It need not be classified into another group. Rushdie closes the essay with W.B. Yeats' poem, The Second Coming. For Rushdie, the end of an era in which English was the sole possession of the English marks the beginning of a new age, an era in which the canon of English literature ought to be expansive enough to encompass works by writers from across the cultural and global spectrum.